The Honorable Robert Wilkie was nominated by President Trump to serve as the 10th Secretary of Veterans Affairs. He was confirmed by the United States Senate on July 23, 2018, and sworn in on July 30, 2018. Mr. Wilkie previously served as the Acting Secretary of VA from March 28th to May 29th, 2018. Before confirmation as VA Secretary, Mr. Wilkie served Secretary James Mattis as his Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, the Principal Advisor to the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of Defense for Total Force Management as it relates to readiness, National Guard and Reserve Component Affairs, Health Affairs, Training and Personnel Requirements and Management, including Equal Opportunity, Morale, Welfare, Recreation, and the Quality of Life for military families. The son of an Army Artillery Commander, Mr. Wilkie spent his youth at Fort Bragg. Today, he is a colonel in the United States Air Force Reserve, assigned to the Office of the Chief of Staff. Before joining the Air Force, he served in the United States Navy Reserve with the Joint Forces Intelligence Command, Naval Special Warfare Group 2, and the Office of Naval Intelligence. Comrades, auxiliary members, ladies and gentlemen, and special guests, please, let's show a warm VFW welcome for the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs, Mr. Robert Wilkie. Secretary.
Thank you all. BJ and Doc, thank you for your kindness to me. And Senator Tester is here, my friend from Montana. There is no more vocal, no more active advocate on behalf of America's warriors than the senator from Montana. It's good to see you, sir. Today is a special day. Today is birthday. 155 years ago, not too far from where we are standing, the 16th President of the United States gave what was perhaps the most spiritual address ever given by a president, where he said that it was time to bind up the nation's wounds and to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and orphan. About a month later, before he went to Ford's Theater, he signed the charter for the first Soldiers' Home in Togus, Maine, the second Soldiers' Home in Tomah, Wisconsin, and the third Soldiers' Home in Dayton, Ohio. That was the birth of this VA. So what does that represent? 41 million Americans have answered the call to arms since the first shot was fired on Lexington Green. Over 1 million of our fellow citizens have given the ultimate price. The cost of freedom is seen here. And I'm looking at Bob Wallace, who served you all for so many years and bore that burden in the streets of Way in the 1960s. And the reason I mentioned Bob is because today we finally began to close the last circle left from that conflict in the 1960s and 70s by publishing the caregivers regulations for those who take care of our Vietnam warriors at home. It is long past time that we did that. And I will also say that the VFW has always answered the call to arms. I saw that day before yesterday in Hot Springs, South Dakota. The Hot Springs VA is a national historic landmark, and people were very concerned that in 2020, it was sort of out of place in the modern age. There were political remedies to what to do with Hot Springs. There were local activist remedies as to what to do with Hot Springs. Well, I did something profound. I sat down with the VFW leadership in Western South Dakota, and we came up with a way forward to make sure that the Hot Springs VA never closes to veterans. So I thank you all very much for that. Well, let me end with a thought, two thoughts. One is, again, looking at Bob, Talk about a generation that we can never forget, and those who served in Southeast Asia. Those are the formative years of my life, watching the soldiers come home to Fort Bragg and in some cases to Fort Sill. My father being gravely wounded in the invasion of Cambodia, but I saw something as a child that was much more serious. And that was after my father recovered from his wounds and returned to the All-American Division as a senior officer, he was not allowed to wear his uniform off post. The VFW is here to make sure that we never return to those days, that America never forgets those chosen few who carry the cost of freedom on their shoulders. So I'll leave you with a thought from General Eisenhower. Some of the British generals were very perturbed and actually unbelieving when they'd see the commander of the great Allied force gathering in England, walking amongst the troops at all hours of the day. That was not something that British officers did. And one of them, a field marshal, asked General Eisenhower why he did it. And Ike said, well, if you read all the military manuals produced out at Fort Leavenworth, they would tell you that the commander's job is to raise morale by walking amongst the troops. That's ass backwards, as Ike said. The commander's job is to walk amongst the troops to be inspired. And that's what the VFW does. It inspires those who are part of this veterans family to go the extra mile. But not only the extra mile for you, but the extra mile to remind Americans that they rest and sleep soundly at night because folks like you bore the incommunicable experience of war. So I thank you very much for everything that you do for this country and everything you do for the peace of the world. Thanks, Doc.
I got you, Doc. So a few days ago, Commander-in-Chief Doc Schmitz had an opportunity to sit with Secretary Wilkie, and they spoke of what the VA and the VFW could do together to continue taking care of our nation's veterans. Just two professionals sitting down and discussing those concerns that they are both passionate about. At the end of that meeting, the Commander-in-Chief said, you know, when the Secretary comes in and addresses us, I want to strengthen my commitment to him to work with the VA in taking care of our nation's veterans. And I can think of no better way to show that commitment than to make a special presentation to him on Wednesday evening. Commander?
For all those security people in the area, do not panic. I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of perspiration and dedication to do what this gentleman has done over the course of time that he's been in service. That deserves recognition from me representing the Veterans of Foreign Wars and our respected auxiliary. And on this K-bar it says, Veterans of Foreign Wars Commander-in-Chief William Doc Schmitz, dare to care. And this gentleman is guilty of that because he truly does care. So for security purposes, should I give it to you? Okay. Give that to you. Thank you.
I got the box with his staff.
This is a great honor. I have to tell you, as an airman, I feel special. But I have to also ask, Senator Tester was there at my confirmation hearing, and one of his colleagues said that my job as the VA secretary was to kick ass. And I immediately said, sir, I'm an Air Force officer. We don't use language like that. But this is very special, and I'll say this. Doc represents the bravest of the brave. Many of you know that there is no community in the armed forces of the United States that suffers greater casualties, that has been awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor in greater numbers than those corpsmen and medics who brave every danger to save our warriors on the field. So that's why this is doubly important, and I thank you, sir.